In spite of their shared cultural background and heritage, the national identities of the two Koreas today are in many ways utterly incompatible. This divergence developed due to the concentrated efforts of the leaders of both countries to create unique cultural identities. In North Korea, this took the form of the creation of Juche and the prevalence of the cult of personality centered on the Kim family. In South Korea, this process involved the promotion of ethnic nationalism. The shared Korean identity from which both North and South Korean nationalism evolved only truly began to develop in the early 20th century in opposition to Japanese colonialism. During this period, Korean nationalists endeavored to create a coherent identity that emphasized uniquely Korean characteristics, such as the Hangul alphabet and legendary figures like Dangun, the mythical founder of Korea. Following the end of the Second World War, Korea was divided into North and South, marking the beginning of the divergent evolution of nationalism in the two states. North Korean nationalism can be succinctly summarized with the single word juche. Roughly meaning self-reliance, this ideology was initially developed in the late 1950s by Kim Il-sung as a uniquely Korean system intended to supplement and ultimately supplant the Marxism-Leninism that had guided the country since its inception. One of the largest departures of Juche from classic Marxist thought is in the preeminence of the state, and more specifically, its leader. Juche quickly evolved into a semi-religious cult of personality that elevates Kim Il-sung and his family to nearly deific status. Kim Il-sung, and later Kim Jong-il, were frequently depicted as the wise and caring fathers of the Korean people, and at times they were even portrayed as loving mothers who tirelessly worked for the good of the family. Using this cult of personality, and the Juche ideology more generally, the Kim family and their close allies have maintained strict control over the nation for decades. Unlike North Korea's Juche, South Korea lacks a single word that encapsulates its national identity. This is because South Korean nationalism is less ideologically focused than North Korea's, instead being based primarily on ethnic homogeneity. Over 97% of the population of South Korea is ethnically Korean, and shared bloodlines and ancestry drives much of the sense of national unity in the country. Since the 1960s, the South Korean government has emphasized this unique identity through the institution of cultural policies. During Chun Doo-hwan's presidency, a section was added to the constitution stating that, quote, the state should strive for the preservation and development of traditional culture and the advancement of national culture, end quote. Historian and political scientist Benedict Anderson famously described nations as imagined communities in which a shared cultural identity is intentionally invented. This definition of the nation is particularly applicable to North and South Korea, which developed from identical cultural backgrounds, yet now express dramatically different identities. The rapidity with which the divergence formed indicates that it was not an entirely organic process. Rather, national leaders in each state have intentionally created cohesive identities to provide legitimacy to their own system as the one true Korea. The application of the theory of imagined communities to Korea provides insight into the decades-long conflict between the two states. The deliberate divergence means that the two countries now bear national identities that are in many ways incompatible. Any road to reunification must therefore include some form of reconciliation of the two identities, a process that would necessarily require the complete participation of national leaders on both sides.